Okay, ladies and gentlemen, his phone calls to us are getting blocked somehow, but he's able to get through on a calling card. And this is a very important case of Richard Fine. Here's the headline. The U.S. Supreme Court will consider the case of a 70-year-old taxpayer advocate, Richard Fine, who has languished in jail for more than a year. This is an amazing story. He's a former federal antitrust lawyer, Ph.D., and it is admitted that judges in L.A. County are being paid money under the table, similar to the case MSNBC reports on. 2 judges plead guilty in sending kids to lockup. Pair admit they got $2.6 million in payoffs to put away young people in a private facility. So this is going on everywhere, but no jury, no charges, over a year in jail because he's been exposing the very judge that put him in jail. Now, this is the essence of tyranny, what we see in the Declaration of Independence, what we were fighting against. Richard Fine, you've got the floor. Tell people what's happened to you.
Okay, well, what has happened to me, very simply, is that I exposed the scheme under which L.A. County supervisors have paid over $300 million.
Your call may be monitored or recorded.
In the last 23 years to the L.A. County Superior Court judges. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the Superior Court judges are state-elected judges. They have absolutely no relationship to L.A. County. These judges are elected in state elections, they're state officials, and they're state employees. And what happened approximately 23 years ago in the late 1980s, the L.A. County supervisors decided that they were going to pay sitting judges money to attract and retain qualified judges to sit in L.A. County. Now, this is totally ridiculous because of the fact that you can't attract a sitting judge to become a judge, and you can't retain a sitting judge to become a judge because the judges are elected. So you can't give them money to attract them to have a job that they already have.
And
you
courts
can't give them money to retain a job for which they're elected.
And precedent shows this is basically illegal, but they're doing it in plain view, right out in the open, and you have a conflict of interest now where in all these years the county's only lost 3 lawsuits because they pay the judges.
That's right. Now, interestingly enough, Alex, it wasn't out in the open. The way that they did it is they did it through the budget process. And in the budget, there was an item called trial court funding. And they just plugged it into trial court funding, and there really was no way that the public really saw that this was money going to the judges. The only way you could find it is that you could find maybe a footnote that would say it was part of trial court funding that the money was
okay. So, but I mean, now it's out in the open, but the media isn't giving it a lot of attention. Now, $300 million. I mean, how much are these judges getting a piece a year?
The judges were getting in 2007 and 2008. They were getting $46,366 per judge per year, and there are 430 judges in L.A. County.
On top of their state paycheck.
Yeah, their state paycheck was $178,000 a year, plus $30,000 in benefits. So the judges were basically taking home about $250,000 a year. That is more than the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, who only takes home $218,000 a year. Now, this is across the board, by the way, throughout California. 55 out of the 58 counties in California is paying extra money to the judges.
Your call may be monitored or recorded.
Not all of them are paying as much money as L.A. County, however. Some of them are only paying a few $1,000s. In fact, in the latest report that came out, this year, I think it's $33 million is being paid to judges throughout California. $23 million of it is being paid in L.A. County.
Unbelievable. And so you start exposing this, you start challenging cases where there's a major conflict of interest, and they throw you in jail, and they're not charging you, and you've been there for a year? I mean, are they saying you'll be there forever?
Well, they want to keep me here until I tell them what my assets are, so that they can grab my assets based upon a ruling that this Judge Yaffe made that I should pay money to L.A. County. Because what happened in this particular case is, and this is also very interesting because this shows you how deep the corruption is. What happened in this case, and the case is called Marina Strand Colony 2 Homeowners
Richard, we got a break. We got a break for the network and satellites. We're back in 3 minutes. Stay there. We hope they don't cut you off. And I've seen cases on CNN where the judges come out in Texas and admit they're getting the money from people's cars they take and wallets they take with no drugs or anything. It's just lawlessness. It's going on everywhere. Richard Fine is our guest, a very distinguished criminal investigator, formerly with the Justice Department, antitrust. Have a lot of other great people that are working with him. Emmy Award-winning researcher Leslie Dutton, filmmaker. The details are online at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com and some of the other great sites that are out there. The disclosure, FullDisclosure.net as well, FullDisclosure.net. But the Supreme Court, out of 10,000 cases a year, has decided to start hearing this case at the preliminary level next Friday. And so there's no courts in between really here. It's just going right to the Supreme Court, which is amazing. So, Richard, go ahead.
What happened, Alex, is that we went through all the courts. We went through the from the California Superior Court. You know, we went through the California Court of Appeals, the California Supreme Court, the United States District
I didn't know that. I guess there's several cases. Several cases involved then. But, I mean, to be clear, give us the name of the case.
The name of the case, the name of the case that
Your call may be monitored or recorded.
The name of the case that the Supreme Court is going to be hearing is Richard I. Fine versus the Sheriff of Los Angeles County. And that's the case that I'm being held on. The underlying case is the case of Marina Strand Colony 2 Homeowners Association versus the County of Los Angeles. And that's the case that we started talking about right before the break. Now, the interesting thing about that case is that shows even more corruption. Because what happened in that case is you had a developer, and the developer's company name was Delray Shores Joint Venture and Delray Shores Joint Venture North. But it was owned but the managing partner is a guy by the name of Jerry B. Epstein. And what Epstein and his chief of staff, David O. Levine, did is they gave money, campaign contributions, sound familiar, to the two supervisors, Michael Antonovich and Don Kanabi. And they gave this money to Kanabi and Antonovich in April of 2007. Now remember that date, because here's how the story comes down the line. These people wanted to redevelop an apartment complex in Marina del Rey, California. And they wanted to expand it from 250-some units, 500 and some units. In order to do that, they needed an environmental impact report. And as part of the environmental impact report, you show how it's going to affect the environment. And one of the other things, you have to show that it'll have a positive financial impact on L.A. County. Now, the interesting thing here is that Marina del Rey is the largest small craft yacht harbor in the United States. It started out with 6,000 boats, now down to about 4,000. The county owns the land, and what the county does is the county leases out the land to these developers who put apartment complexes on the land, and then they end up paying the county for the use of the land. I'm going to digress slightly here to show you how bad this is. These developers they're taking in about $350 million a year in rent from these apartments. They pay the county approximately $35 million a year for the land. They should be paying the county approximately $100 million a year for the land. So the taxpayers in L.A. County are losing $70 million a year in land rent from the developers. In the last 10 years, the taxpayers in Los Angeles County have lost approximately approximately $1 billion in rent. Now,
Your call may be monitored or recorded.
how does this come about? It comes about because of the fact that the developers give campaign contributions to the supervisors. The supervisors end up with these sweetheart contracts with the developers, so the developers pay this low amount of rent. And that's what happened here.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear, because I notice that all the time in Austin where I live. I've got to pay all these property taxes, business taxes, but big corporations come in. They make political contributions, and the city says, we waive your property tax for 10 years. We waive your environmental fees. We waive everything.